If you're involved in a personal injury accident, it's important to be compensated for loss in wages. And here to break it all down for us is Catherine Stone from Injury Florida Law. Good morning. Good morning. See you.
Nice to have you.
So this is an interesting topic because I think it is kind of, we're pulling the lens back maybe and kind of looking at this issue as a whole.
Well,
because it can get pretty complicated.
I think a lot of people think about their medical bills. They think about their medical care when it comes to...
As they should.
Of course, and that should always be, you know, the first, one of the first things on your mind. But also being able to pay your bills at the end of the day, too. And that's why, you know, making sure that the attorney knows what's going on with your employment.
Okay.
Is so very important. I had a client recently that I didn't realize was having to take all this time off for physical therapy, and ended up, you know, basically telling me that they ended up losing their job because they were missing too much time to go to physical therapy. And so, you know, we could have maybe done something different and found a different therapist that, you know, had better hours or something along those lines. So, you know, again, keeping me informed or keeping your attorney informed as to what's going on, because that lost wages, that's also an element of your claim. So it's not just all about the medical. You still also have that, you know, especially anything of, you know, you're having to use all your PTO time.
Well, that was my first thing. Let's say you're, maybe it's covered and you're actually using PTO, but the fact that you're having to use all your vacation time.
Right. So you can still, but it all has to be documented.
Okay.
So documentation is key. So typically the way we calculate with someone who has a regular, you know, W-2 employment is we need the 13 weeks prior to the accident, and then we will calculate an average, and then we see how far below you go from that average or what you've lost after the accident. It becomes more complicated if people are self-employed. So, for instance, I just had a wage loss claim with a gentleman who was a truck driver.
Okay.
And so when his truck was in the shop for about 5 weeks, that was 5 weeks, he had no income. So we pursued...
Because of the accident?
Because of the accident. It took that long to get the vehicle fixed. And because it was a large, you know, over-the-road vehicle, it wasn't like he could just go lease another vehicle to do his job. And so we basically, as part of our overall demand, not only is it the medical aspect, we included a lot of documentation with regards to and showing the insurance companies, you know, how much income he had lost as a result of his vehicle being out of commission. So in that particular case, it wasn't even about his injuries keeping him out of work. It was his vehicle keeping him out of work.
But if that stemmed from the actual accident,
right? If it stemmed from, you know, a slip and fall, or, you know, well, your vehicle wouldn't be involved, just slip and fall, but or an auto accident or a motorcycle accident, you know, yes, then you definitely need to make sure, and the attorney should be asking you, do you have a wage loss claim? I mean, I have a form that's one of the first things I do, but then things happen as cases rock along, and so that's why it's just always, I tell my clients, I don't care, you can text, email, call, whatever you need to, let me know what's going on.
And then we have a little less than a minute left, but I just want to make sure people know when that right time is to call an attorney and to make sure that they have someone kind of on their side.
Well, I typically tell people, you know, the sooner the better, because there's so many different phases. There's so many different aspects. There's so many little nuances that if you've never been involved in an accident like this before, that you may skip, and sometimes once you skip that step, you can't go back.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask too. Is it ever too late to call if someone is kind of a couple weeks into this? They had an accident a couple weeks ago and then are struggling now.
You know, I always tell people, call and we'll talk to you regardless. I don't care if the accident was 6 months ago or 9 months ago. If you've gotten some medical care during that time period or whatever the situation may be, we're going to flesh out all the questions that we need to find out whether or not we can help you or not.
Well, and that's why we're so happy you're part of our team, part of our show. Let's put your contact over on the screen now, because let's say you're watching this morning and you do have some of those questions. This is where you can get them answered. That's how to contact Catherine. So there's the number, the website. And again, we appreciate you being a part of our team.